Tonight, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is investigating LinkedIn, accusing the company of advertising and profiting from so-called ghost jobs. These are postings that may never have been real openings in the first place. And for those looking for work in the D.C. region, especially former federal workers and contractors, that could mean even more frustration in an already competitive market. Investigators say LinkedIn does not verify whether listings are even active. Studies also cited in this investigation suggest as many as 1 in 3 job postings online could be fake or abandoned. Let's bring in Dr. Terry Clower, a director of George Mason University Center for Regional Analysis, to help break this all down for us. This is a bit of discouraging news. I mean, it certainly leaves us feeling a little unsettled, but let's start with the basics here. What exactly is a ghost job, and how much of a problem is this for people, especially looking for work in our region?
So the ghost job is exactly as you described it. It's, there is a job posting and it doesn't represent an actual job opening that is at the firm or organization that's posting the job. That in of itself is not anything new. You go back to pre-internet days when job postings were always in the newspaper. The companies would get a break on the advertising rate with the newspaper if they kept a placeholder ad that made it look like there was always a job available when there really wasn't. So it's not that it's such a new phenomenon, but it has become much more intense in the era of online job postings. A big one is what can be very confusing is a company will post a job ad on maybe, 5, 10, a dozen sites. And if they fill that position, do they remember to actually remove that ad from a dozen sites?
You know, in the last month, I know your center tracked more than 100,000 unique job postings in our region alone. What does a number that high actually tell us about how many real openings are actually out there?
That's something I wish we had a better answer to. The best way that we use that data as just broad estimates, and we look at how it's moving over time. Is it getting larger? Is it getting smaller? And it's more of a broader indicator because there really isn't a good way of doing that. There is also the issue that sometimes what happens is a company is putting in a job ad for the anticipation of maybe getting some work. We see this a lot in government contractors. They've bid on a project and they have to start building the resume base in case they get the work, but they may not. And so it just happens. And of course, all of the competitor companies will be doing the same thing. So I would tell you that I would expect that phenomenon to be actually stronger here based on how much of our local economy is based on bidding for government contracts.
Well, speaking of, we've seen thousands of federal workers, contractors enter the job market, especially over the past year. If someone's been applying for weeks with no response, I mean, how do they know if it's them or if the job never existed in the first place? How do you know that?
It's hard to do, and there's actually two things to this. The first is, if you are a job applicant, be careful about, look at the site, make sure that it looks like and has all the feel of a legitimate company site, because there are scam artists that are out there that will try to get your personal information through a job application, that's not real. The other thing though that is happening, that I hear many people that are out looking for jobs talk about now, is being ghosted. Not the job posting being the ghost, but being ghosted by companies after they've been into, either applied or even have gone through multi stages of an interview process. And that's just a matter a little bit of a cultural problem that we have, that has come up with the social media age of, just not being courteous enough about people's time.
Yeah. Doctor, before we let you go, in 20 seconds, your best takeaway, your best advice for people.
So the best advice that I can give folks is to be persistent, to not overly rely on an artificial intelligence program to do your resume. Remember, you want to stand out. If the LLM has done the resume, it's going to look like everybody else's who's done that. So, and then patience and persistence. And unfortunately, that's the hardest thing to do when you're looking for a job.
Okay, sometimes it just comes down to the basics. Thank you so much, Dr. Terry Clower, Director of George Mason University Center for Regional Analysis. We appreciate your time, sir.